It's Brian Preston, the Money Guy.
This next question, Brian, is from Brian with an I, so spelled the way you like it. I think this is a lot of people asking about this. When it comes to economic outpatient care, is a son, daughter, and their spouse moving in for a few months to save for a house considered economic outpatient care? I want to expand on this question a little bit, Brian, because we've seen this before. There's a friend that I'm thinking of that we both have whose parents had done very well in life. Now, this child didn't they weren't receiving economic out. They were self-sufficient. They were making good decisions, but they were so against not the success of the parents, but using the parents as a crutch. They actually missed some opportunities, right? So can you walk through, if you're a successful parent, or if you have successful parents, how do you draw the line between what's actually economic outpatient care and what's, taking advantage of really neat opportunities that perhaps not everyone has access to?
Well, I think this is an interesting thing because what you're trying to do is you're trying to be smart, especially with your children, that they develop the talents and the skill sets and the aptitude to handle their money well. That it's incredible that when you're using outpatient care, that's what, when we talk about the Millionaire Next Door stuff, this is where you're basically drowning your children with money to the point that they never develop those basic financial skills. They don't know the power of saving, and paying themselves first before they just expand their consumption. That's what you're worried about, not understanding the value of a dollar through how it works, being a good employee, being a good worker, and understanding and appreciating that working a hard day's work and then sleeping good at night because you feel good and fulfilled that you worked really hard that day. Those are the skill sets you're trying to encourage in your children. And that doesn't mean that you're holding out on funding education, funding going on good life memories and other things. But there is a fine line because, as Bo alluded to, look, a lot of the ills that I think a lot of people get caught up in these days is social economics. And there are some benefits for kids of parents who have wealth. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's just face it. So once you develop those skill sets, I will tell you, I think one of the things I think is valuable is that I'm going to be able to pay for my daughter's college. She's gotten a scholarship that's paying the lion's share of it, but the other part, she's going to be able to come out of school, student loan free. And I love that because that lets her hit the ground running on all these other financial goals. But if there's also, I think, because I know so many success stories where I've seen small businesses that were started from a loan from an aunt, an uncle, or even the parents of somebody who had obviously shown that they had the skill set, they had developed the financial muscle to be good with money, disciplined with money, and this allowed them to kind of build upon that opportunity of having access to resources. What you don't want, the other side of that is that you have, because I see these schemes also, you have a child that never developed good financial skill sets, who doesn't understand the value of money, and they're just chasing dreams with your money, meaning that they're starting a business, but it's a business that has zero opportunity of being successful. They didn't create the 3 scenarios, that 3-2-1 plan that I've covered in other shows, where you have the 3 business plans of I'm going to be rich, how I think it's going to be, or oh my goodness, I'm going to be broke, and then actually having consequences if it doesn't work out. That's what I see, is that you'll see people invest in their children in stuff that has zero opportunity of being successful. Another thing is, I've seen people say want to start car washes or go into the entertainment industry or start a YouTube channel, and should they go buy all the equipment? I'm like, well, have they done the work to be successful at that? Do they know how to run a business? Do they know have they done the work to know technical competency to be able to do this for a living? If you're skipping those steps and you're still giving your kids the money, that's not healthy. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about economic outpatient care. I want you to focus on those basic behavioral things, because I do think it's just like when you write a will. It makes complete sense that you want to restrict the 20-year-old from inheriting $3 or $4 million, because they're probably going to go buy a fancy car and make horrible decisions. But it's a different thing when you have a 42-year-old child. Hopefully by then they have grown and matured into where they're making the best decisions, and you've given them the skill set. That's what we're talking about with economic outpatient care. Are you doing the right training so that your kids actually have the skill set to be good with money, versus versus just letting them drown in this money that you're passing down to them, that they're making horrible decisions, horrible results. And as a result, they're consumers of the wealth instead of becoming builders so they can build upon what you've already created.
Yeah, and I think oftentimes parents, because they're so worried about this, they artificially, I don't want to say punish the good decision makers. Like if you have two kids and one is a financial mess and one is really good financially, they unintentionally, by trying to help the not as good one, right, economic outpatient care, kind of punish the other one. I think you have to understand a balance. Now, does it mean that like in all parental scenarios, everything should be exactly equal and 50-50? I don't know. You got to decide that as a parent. You got to decide as a family what makes the most sense. But just recognize that there are two parties at play, right? I'm just thinking if there's like two different two siblings here, and it's okay to support your kids and provide opportunity for your kids. It's not okay to enable them. I think Warren Buffett said this great when he talks about like the inheritance he's leaving for his kids, right? They say, how much money are you going to leave them? Well, I'm going to leave them enough money they can do anything in the world they want to do. But I'm not going to leave them so much money they can do nothing, right? Because he cared about instilling that, them learning how to make the right, by the way, his kids are all in their like 50s and all successful in their own. So I think they're going to be fine. But that's what you want. You want your kids to be able to do that. But it's okay to be wealthy. It's okay to be successful. It's okay to have kids that carry on that path.
But I do think there's something to forced scarcity. It's like my daughter driving the character building car that's, doesn't have shiny paint on it. It doesn't have the latest and greatest. It's probably nobody standing around her car at the school parking lot, oogling and awing it because she paid for half of it. It's a jalopy. But it's going to be a character builder. But on the other side, I don't think, because this is something I always look back on my life, is that look, computers came on the scene when I was a little kid. And I was so nerdy as a kid that I learned how to code in BASIC. And I wrote a program that my mom and all of her teacher friends used to do the grades. Because we all take this for granted now, but as a teacher, you had to average out the grades. I wrote a program for my mom. So I was way ahead of the curve as a little young kid. I'm talking about like elementary school age. And my parents, but when that computer broke, my parents were like,
nah, we're not going to fix that.
He doesn't need another computer. That is not the thing to be, now look, my parents didn't have money, so it's okay. I understand why I didn't get that talent nurtured. But I think if your kids have aspirations, if they have aptitudes, there's nothing wrong with you investing in them being the best version. It's just like my daughter, when she started doing digital art, we can work on enabling or nurturing you to build, because you go read Outliers and other books like that, where it talks about the reason Bill Gates created Microsoft is that he had access to programming and coding and mainframes in the 7th grade. So he had 5 years of experience doing this before anybody else his age even learned about this in college. That head start and that nurturing of that aptitude can create incredible opportunities. So make sure you're using the resources and looking at it going, is this an enabling thing that's going to create bad behaviors, or is this something that's actually going to nurture a talent that I think will be good in the long term? Understand how what's good and what's bad and nurture and getting those things invested in.